In a world where noise often overshadows substance, where people seek attention more than mastery, where the loudest voices are sometimes mistaken for the wisest ones, there lies an underrated strength: building yourself quietly. While everyone else rushes to showcase their progress, post every minor win, or seek validation at every turn, you can choose a different path. A path that is not glamorous but powerful. A path that doesn't scream for attention but commands respect. That path is quiet self building, the art of developing yourself silently, deliberately, and diligently, away from the eyes of the world. Real growth doesn't need an audience. This idea challenges the norm in a world where people often equate visibility with success. We live in a culture driven by likes, shares, and constant online presence. The urge to be seen, to be validated, and to be recognized has grown so strong that many people focus more on being noticed than actually improving. Not true growth. The kind that transforms your life and character doesn't require an audience. It happens in silence, in solitude, and in dedication to the process, not the performance. When you're focused on real self improvement, you're not doing it to show others. You're not working hard so people will cheer you on. You're doing it because you know deep down that you can be better, that you want to evolve, that you have something within you worth developing. That kind of growth isn't loud. It doesn't need applause or approval. It's private, internal, and deeply personal. It's the quiet kind of growth that doesn't seek attention but earns respect over time. Think about the most meaningful changes in life: healing from pain, developing emotional strength, overcoming inner demons, mastering a new skill, or building confidence. These processes are rarely visible from the outside. People might not even notice anything happening. You may go through months or years of working on yourself, and others might still see you the same way. But you'll know what's changing inside. That's what matters. The changes you make in the dark are the ones that shine brightest when the time is right. There's something powerful about knowing that you're doing the work and not needing to prove it to anyone. It creates a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to boast. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop needing validation from people who don't understand your path. You become more focused, more grounded, and more intentional. You realize that your journey isn't a performance. It's not a competition. It's a transformation. And transformation takes time, privacy, and commitment. When you grow without an audience, you build resilience. Because when no one is watching, you're forced to be your own motivation. You have to push yourself, not because others are cheering, but because you believe in what you're doing. That's where real strength comes from. Not from being admired, but from being dedicated to your mission, even when no one notices, even when no one understands, even when you're walking alone. Real growth often looks like discipline, waking up early to study or work out, even when no one knows. Practicing your craft daily, even when there's no audience. Saying no to temptations and distractions, not because someone's watching, but because you've set higher standards for yourself. That's the essence of building in silence, doing the hard things without needing to show them off. That's where integrity is formed. That's where character is built. When your focus is on showing your growth rather than actually growing, you risk becoming performative. You do things for attention, for likes, for praise. And that's a dangerous path. Because once the praise stops, so does your effort. You become dependent on feedback. But when you grow for yourself, you develop intrinsic motivation, the kind that lasts, the kind that doesn't fade when the spotlight is gone. That's real power. You also protect your energy when you grow in private. You shield your goals from unnecessary opinions, criticisms, and distractions. Not everyone needs to understand your journey. Not everyone is meant to walk it with you. Oh. Sometimes the more you share, the more you invite doubt. Not from yourself, but from others. And their doubt can infect your belief if you're not careful. That's why growing without an audience is not only powerful, it's wise. You give yourself space to learn, to fail, to try again, all without the pressure of being watched. True progress is often unrecognizable in its early stages. You may be making incredible strides internally, changing your mindset, improving your habits, developing emotional intelligence. But the outside world may not see it yet. That's okay. Growth isn't always visible. It's not always flashy. Sometimes the most powerful development is invisible to the eye, but undeniable in its long-term impact. When you grow without an audience, you surprise people, not because you were hiding, but because you were focused. You didn't announce every step, but you kept moving. Ha, but you kept moving. You didn't seek approval, but you stayed committed. And one day, when the results become impossible to ignore, people will ask how you did it. They'll wonder where you found the strength, the discipline, the courage. And you'll know it came from the quiet hours, the unseen effort, the lonely nights of grinding when no one was watching. Real growth doesn't ask for attention. It asks for sacrifice. It demands consistency, patience, and faith. It's a long game. A process of evolving every single day without needing applause. You don't need an audience to improve your mindset. You don't need one to heal, to grow, to become wiser or stronger. You just need intention, effort, and trust in your journey to discipline in silence builds unshakable confidence. When you commit to your growth quietly, without the need for validation or praise, something powerful begins to happen inside you. You start to develop a kind of inner strength that doesn't rely on external reinforcement. You become more in control of your actions, your habits, your mindset, and your emotions. It's in this silence, away from the noise and distractions, that real discipline is born. And through that discipline, you create a version of yourself that is calm, focused, and deeply confident, not because of what others say, but because of what you know you've built within. Hmm. Every small decision you make when no one is watching adds up. Waking up early, putting in the extra hours, choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort, these actions don't always feel exciting. In fact, they often feel boring or repetitive. But it's in that repetition, in the consistent effort done in silence, that true discipline is forged. And that kind of discipline becomes a part of you. It no longer depends on mood or motivation. It becomes your default setting, your foundation, your standard. When you develop discipline without needing to tell the world, you build something sacred. You're no longer working to be seen, you're working to become. You stop performing for approval and start creating real transformation. That quiet discipline becomes your armor. It helps you resist distractions, stay committed to your path, and show up even when it's hard. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. Just do the work because that's who you are now. Confidence doesn't come from loud declarations. It doesn't come from telling everyone what you're going to do. It comes from doing it again and again and again, especially when no one is watching. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, from knowing that you can rely on your own word. That self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of confidence there is. It's not built by chance. It's built by discipline, by doing what you said you'd do, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one will ever know. You don't need to post every win. You don't need to announce every step. Let the world wonder how you're becoming so grounded, so strong, so consistent. That mystery comes from the discipline you've cultivated in silence. It comes from the days when you wanted to quit, but didn't. From the times when you didn't feel like showing up, but did anyway. From the moments you chose growth over comfort again and again. That's what creates real, unshakable confidence. We're conditioned to think that we need motivation to act, that we need to feel inspired to be productive. But discipline teaches you something deeper. It teaches you that action can happen without emotion, that you can still move forward even when you're tired, uninspired, or doubting yourself. Discipline teaches you that your feelings don't have to control your actions. And when you learn that, you become incredibly powerful. You're no longer a slave to your moods or circumstances. You're led by purpose, by commitment, by clarity. This is why the quiet grind is so important. It teaches you how to rely on yourself, how to stay grounded when life gets chaotic, how to stay focused when everything around you is trying to pull you off track. When you practice discipline and silence, you're training your mind to be resilient. You're building mental toughness that can't be shaken by other people's opinions or unexpected challenges. And that's the kind of confidence that lasts, the kind that doesn't need to be broadcast, because it's already embedded in who you are. The silent work also strips away ego. When no one is watching, there's no room for showmanship. It's just you and your effort. You start to realize that the real reward isn't recognition. It's the progress itself, the growth, the skill, the mastery. You'll stop comparing your journey to others because your only competition is the person you were yesterday. That internal focus allows your confidence to grow from a pure place, not from external praise, but from inner alignment. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce the belief that you can handle discomfort, that you can stay on course no matter what. You can do hard things. Over time, this belief becomes unshakable. You begin to carry yourself differently, not out of arrogance, but out of certainty. A quiet certainty that says, I've done the work. I've earned this. I know who I am. Confidence that comes from silence is the kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, because it wasn't built on surface level praise or temporary motivation. It was built in solitude, in early mornings and late nights, in sacrifices no one else saw. It was built by showing up when it would have been easier to give up. And that kind of confidence is powerful beyond measure. It can't be taken away because it's not based on something fragile. It's based on discipline, and discipline, once mastered, becomes a part of your identity. People often chase confidence as if it's something you find, but you don't find it. You build it, you earn it. And the foundation of that confidence is discipline. Not loud, flashy discipline that begs for attention, but quiet, consistent discipline that you practice daily. The kind that becomes invisible to the world, but deeply rooted within you. The kind that shows up in how you think, how you walk, how you carry yourself, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're anchored in who you've become. The journey of building yourself quietly requires patience with the process and trust in your timing. In a world obsessed with instant results and overnight success, this mindset feels rare, even radical. We're constantly exposed to highlight reels of people achieving great things, getting recognition, or making breakthroughs. That constant exposure can make you feel like you're behind, like your progress is too slow, like you're not doing enough. But real growth, deep, lasting, transformative growth, doesn't happen on a fixed schedule. It happens in phases and cycles, and it requires you to stay committed even when there are no visible results. There will be long stretches where nothing seems to be happening. You'll be putting in the work, staying consistent, and doing everything you're supposed to do. And still, there won't be anything to show for it. That's when most people give up. They start to doubt themselves. They question the process, and they assume something's wrong. But this is the space where the strongest foundation is laid. These quiet seasons are not empty. They're essential. They are the seasons of planting, nurturing, and becoming. You can't skip them. You can't rush them. You can only surrender to them. When you trust in your timing, you understand that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop trying to force outcomes. You realize that your journey is uniquely yours, and that comparison only distracts you from your own growth. What looks like a delay is often preparation. What feels like a setback is often redirection. What seems like silence is often the space where strength is being built, patience is being tested, and resilience is being formed. Patience is not passive. It's not about sitting still and waiting for things to happen. Patience is active. It means showing up every day with the same focus, the same drive, the same commitment, even when there's no applause, no recognition, no visible reward. It means having the maturity to understand that growth takes time, and the humility to embrace every step of that process. It means understanding that every great transformation has a hidden phase, and that nothing truly powerful is built in haste. When you trust your timing, you free yourself from the pressure of the clock. You stop thinking in terms of how fast you can achieve something and start thinking in terms of how well you can build it. You shift your focus from outcome to process, from speed to substance, from recognition to mastery. That shift changes everything. You begin to enjoy the grind, to respect the struggle, to fall in love with the journey rather than obsessing over the destination. There's a deep inner peace that comes from knowing you're on the right path. Even if it's taking longer than you expect, that peace can only come from trust. Trust in your work ethic, trust in your vision, trust in your ability to stay consistent. You begin to understand that just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Delays are not denials, they're often divine pauses, moments where life is aligning the pieces behind the scenes, preparing you for the opportunity you're working toward. One of the hardest parts of growing quietly, staying patient when people around you seem to be moving faster. You'll see others achieving what you want, and it'll be tempting to question your path. But you can't compare someone's chapter 20 to your chapter 3. You don't know what battles they've fought, what sacrifices they've made, or how long they've been grinding behind the scenes. You only see the results. If you constantly look outward, you'll lose focus. You'll start making decisions from a place of insecurity instead of clarity. That's why you have to stay grounded in your journey. You have to remind yourself that slow growth is still growth and that quiet progress is still progress. There will be days when it feels like you're stuck, like nothing's changing, like you're running in place. But growth often happens in invisible ways. Your mindset is shifting, lady. Your habits are improving. Your character is evolving. The results may not be visible yet, but the foundation is being built. And when the time is right, everything you've been working toward will start to show. But it won't be a surprise because you'll know what it took to get there. The world might not see the hours you put in, the sacrifices you've made, or the struggles you faced in silence, but you will. You'll know the value of patience, the power of staying the course, and the strength it took to keep going when nothing seemed to be working. And that knowledge becomes your fuel. It becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded when success finally comes because you didn't rush it. You earned it. When you commit to the process and trust your timing, you begin to align with your own rhythm. You stop chasing what's not meant for you. You stop rushing into things that aren't aligned. You start building with purpose, with depth, and with a long-term vision. You understand that anything worth having is worth building slowly, carefully, intentionally, because fast success fades quickly. But what's built with patience and integrity, what's built quietly day after day, that lasts.